May I invite Mr. Marc Tormo of Coffee Ideas to make his presentation on crafting Indian specialty coffees. Mr. Marc Tormo is the CEO, co-founder of the company Coffee Ideas. He is a passionate entrepreneur and a coffee roaster, seeking to leverage extensive experience in the specialty coffee industry. His goal is to utilize his knowledge and skills to empower coffee professionals and enhance the coffee community's overall product quality. Apart from being a specialty coffee shop owner, he is a good brewer. He started his career at the age of 23 by establishing a specialty coffee shop in Barcelona. He traveled around the world and gained expertise in brewing specialty coffees from diverse regions across the world. He acquired knowledge in coffee culture and successfully managed the coffee shop business. He relocated to South India at the age of 27. He has conducted extensive research in coffee cultivation, post-harvesting and processing, and has developed a brand reputation as one of India's top specialty cafes and roasteries. He has attended many coffee courses, namely Coffee Shastra for Coffee Board, Espresso Evaluation Program from Trieste Coffee Cluster, program by Coffee Quality Institute USA, and many others. He has also attended Robusta Q Grader programs and passed 18 exams in that program and gained knowledge in Robusta coffee cultivation. Let me welcome Mr. Marc Tormo to make his presentation.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming to UPASI conference. I know that after lunch, we're all feeling a little sleepy. I hope my presentation can keep you awake. I'm going to talk about my favorite subject. Thanks for the introduction. I'm into coffee since more than 25 years. I'm still not got enough about this amazing product. We launched our brand with a very clear purpose and aim that was to promote and craft Indian specialty coffees back in 2018 when hardly anybody understood what we were doing. Now I think the scenario is changing, and I'm very glad that now things are getting ready for the Indian specialty coffee to really take off. We are very much in the renaissance of Indian coffee, and so we're very privileged professionals to witness the firsthand how this coffee that has been traded as a commodity has been brewed, blended in a very anonymous manner. And nobody knew that most of the best espressos done in Italy are actually from Indian origin. Nobody knew that India could match the quality of any Kenyan coffee, any Ethiopian coffee, or any Colombian coffee. So I think now is the time for us to unlock this potential and together embarking on a journey of Cup of Excellence of India. So how we can unlock India's potential, we have defined three main points. One is to, for sure, to co-create coffees with the planters. I think this is a very creative process. It's not about, show me your sample, how much it is, I buy it, see you next year. It doesn't work like that. For us, it's first to establish a contact with the planters and see what they want to do with that. And if they're excited with us to create something together, this is how we started. And I think that is the only way for us to really unlock the full potential, because it requires a lot of details, a lot of energy, and a lot of passion. Secondly, of course, the coffee grows well. Here we are in perfect conditions for coffee cultivation, but then it comes to the point of post-harvesting. And also we are witnessing a renaissance in the plantations, because the machinery that were used in the past were not actually fulfilling the requirements we require now to produce high-quality coffees. So I can see very gladly that many planters are renewing their pulpers. They are bringing in fermentation tanks. They are bringing in poly houses, raised beds. and so on. They understood that it's not about experimenting, it's about implementing something that has well proven that if you have your own protocols, you can repeat the same results every year. Even you can improve them upon. So that is what we do. We do a lot of post-harvesting with the planters, and we will talk about a bit more in detail later on. And the third big block on how to unlock this potential is by roasting coffees in very small batches. We need to understand the nature of the coffee, the density, the composition, as well as the best curve that brings that potential forward. That we do it very diligently. Of course, roasted coffee is a semi-finished product. We can't do much unless we brew it, unless we enjoy it. And for that, I think the brewing is a very huge part of unlocking that potential. We cannot pretend to give you an extraordinary cup of coffee beans, give you coffee beans, and I expect you to brew it to perfection. I think it's too much of an assumption here. We need to know how to brew it well, because it doesn't come by chance, it comes by choice and knowledge. Then serving this exceptional cup of coffee is very much part of the adventure of a specialty coffee. How you are going to present your coffee, which cup are you going to choose, which ambience you want to create, to which audience you are talking, how you want to bring the hospitality to the top level at the level of the coffee you are serving. So I think it's a lot of work from seed to cup, and then the way you sell it, because at the end of the day, these coffees are not cheap, they are rather costly. So unless you don't know how to sell it well, I think people will not understand exactly what you are offering them. So I think marketing also requires a different approach than what we call commercial marketing of coffee. We look at the coffee culture system in three main domains, because this is it's very wide and very complex. We don't want to get lost into that. Throughout the years, we understood that there are three main domains for us to be aware all the time when we do a specialty coffee. The first domain is what we call the soil, what our former presenter spoke about it, how important it is to look at the soil where the coffee grows. We want a healthy soil. We want a healthy environment. We have climate change. We need to produce, and we need to take care of the soil, the water resources. The way we deal with the resources is extremely important. So all what is related to soil is actually important for us to select the coffees we want to work with. The second is the soul. Soul is the purpose of the planter. What is the purpose of the planter? What you want to achieve by planting coffee? What is your ultimate objective? You want just to produce more bags? You want to have, your aim is just maximum yield? Or you want to really make your coffee taste the best you can? And how you want to achieve that target? For us, this is very important too. It needs to be an alignment between us and the planter. Both of us, we are in the same path of coffee excellence, and we are not going to compromise anything along the line. So on this is also aligned. We move into society, because coffee is a very social beverage. It is also a social plant. Doesn't like to live alone. As you know, in India, we are grateful to have shade-grown practices. When you go to another countries and see that it's a monocrop, makes me cry. We have here an amazing ecosystem. Coffee may be the guardian of our forest. So let's work together with that and bring that to the table where the people enjoy that cup of coffee. How to explain the journey, how to create an atmosphere, how to create a memorable experience. That is the culture we believe we want to grow in. This is a very simple graph, but this is the way it reflects how we look at the ecosystem. Customer is always at the center. Without customer, we are nothing. But we start first with the planters. The planters talk to the roasters. We call that the fourth wave. There's a lot of interaction with the roasters and the planters, a lot of interesting exchanges of knowledge, always focus on how to achieve the maximum quality. Roasters talks to cafes. We do a lot of B2B business. We have lovely people. with beautiful dreams to set up specialty cafes. They don't want to scale up much. They just want to have their own cafe and bring the best they can. And I think that is the type of customers we like to work with. And with that, the cafes can pass on the message about the coffee, and the customer gets the final product. The same way we can reverse back. The customer, through us, can know what they drink, can know more about the origin of the coffee they drink, the impact that it has in the environment, as well as in society, and fulfillment of all the people who are being involved. We're going to give 3 examples. We have many. Today I've only chosen 3. I think these 3 examples prove the concept that what we do works and yields very good results. So I invite any coffee planter present today who's willing to take the route of a specialty coffee, or the one really interested, a small part of their production to bring it to the highest level. That is a reference that you can always go back and ask to them how they feel about the progress of the coffee. So Bee Forest is a small plantation, 125 acres in Kakabe, Kurk. It's a very interesting project. It's a rewilding project. Their concept is very clear. They don't want to keep growing coffee for yield. They want to keep the coffee wild and produce a small amount of the plantation, a bit with more quantities, but produce a high quality coffee. So we went there this year and we did a wonderful 10-day course on how to bring the best of their coffees by fermenting the coffees in a particular manner that I'll explain briefly. The second one is Kerehaklu plantation from Chikmagalur. I worked with them for the past 4 years. First we met, we connected with this Pranoy. We said, why we don't do a lot together? We walked through the plantation, we selected the block, we got inspired by the block and by the health of the plants. It was a beautiful selection, 6. And there we started our journey to co-create a product together called Pranoy Sprite. It's a very small amount. It's around 400 to 500 kilos, that's all. But it's a wonderful, natural, fermented coffee that every year is getting better and better, and it's becoming very popular among coffee aficionados. So it's a very good example of how things work at the specialty level. We don't want to work for a year. This is a long-term relationship. Again, is a path of excellence that you cannot achieve it just 1 year. So that's the second example. The third example is also a small plantation. It's organic plantation in Baba Budan. It's around 25 acres by a creek, very slopey terrain, very difficult terrain to grow coffee, a lot of rain, heavy slopes. But this farmer is determined to produce outstanding coffees regardless the obstacles. There's also an organic coffee, and I think you can try this coffee if you feel we have a small stall outside. We'll very gladly brew a cup of coffee for you. Here you have a Pumal estate. So basically the fermentation process that we do, we don't believe that we want to bring other substances in our fermentation coffee. The specialty coffee, yes, it's a very trendy movement. There is a lot of trendy new things that people want to try. I'm quite skeptical about that unless I have a very scientific reason why to use something that doesn't belong to the plantation. So what we do basically is we select the microorganisms present in the fruits in the very plantation where we do the lots. And those beautiful coffee cherries, even if we don't see it with our naked eye, there are millions of microorganisms living in the outside and the inside of the coffee fruit, which are protecting the fruit from being attacked from other bacteria or viruses or pathogens. Those are very beneficial for health. So what we do is we do a selection of them and then we breed them like very much you do with sourdough breads, or you do with beer or cheese or anything that is fermented to increase the quality of the taste and also the nutritional values of the product. That we see here 4 years ago, we started introducing the refractometers. 5 years ago, very few planters were using those. Now everybody's using them. It's a very good way to make sure that before you pick the fruits you want to ferment or process, the amount of sugar content is the maximum you can get from that variety. So we do bricks counts. It's not the only number that we look. There are many other parameters that we need to look at, but bricks is one of the things that we want to make sure we control and measure before we start. And then another nanolot we created with them, the harvest, is a way to celebrate that we get a harvest every year. So we have a seasonal blend called the Harvest Blend that celebrates the coffee harvest, and that is the coffee we choose, Tadbamasi coffee. And the last example is was at Kerehaklu through Pranoy. Joy, I think, is here. He knows very well this process. Every year we meet. We see the reality of the coffee plantations this year. I remember I was there and we had some fires on the plantation, so just to see how you deal with that. And then rain, and then elephant comes and destroys certain things, and bisons walk around. So I see through those visits how hard, how challenging it is to produce coffee. So that is something that brings a lot of awareness in us, and as well as the customers. This coffee is just, doesn't come from heaven. It's hard work. And so Pranoy's Pride has become an icon of single estate coffee, nanolot, every year the same block, same variety, same process, but better and better, because this year they have built an amazing poly house which allows them to dry the coffee very slowly. We don't need to bother about if it has some erratic rains. We don't need to bother about the high humidity in the evenings or in the nights. The coffee really dries in a very controlled manner, and slow drying, it's well proven that it's going to increase the quality of the cup. So drying, it becomes very, very important for us to achieve excellence in coffee. So thank you, Pranoy, I think Kerehaklu, for investing in better coffee and every year getting better cups. We come to Green Coffee Quality Assessment. In our Center of Excellence, CLC, what we do is we take 1 kilo of the parchment, 1 kilo of your fruits, cherries, and we go through strict checks. We hull and peel and grade all the coffees in-house, and from there we start understanding what happened with that coffee, how many defects you get. And so we already realize that Indian coffee is so diverse. And when you are a creative person and you have so much availability of different coffees in front of you, you have a great advantage because you can create so many new products, either blends, new roasts, single estates, new methods. India grows a lot of different varieties, both Arabica, Canephora. They also grow wild coffee that belongs to India. I mean, everybody says coffee comes from Africa. Yes. Arabica comes from Africa. Yes. Canephora comes from Africa. Yes. But there are coffee varieties, coffee species that they are from India. We have not yet explored that. Yeah? So we love to do that. We're exploring with Coffea guitiana. We have harvested Coffea guitiana in the arable forest. We have fermented it. We have cured it. We have peeled. We have roasted it and cupped. And it's absolutely delicious. So that is the beautiful thing about Indian coffee. So much to discover yet. Forget about only Chandragiris and Selection 5. There is a lot more out there to discover and to dig in and see what is the potential. So, and also the methods that we are now doing for harvesting is very, very diverse. You have aerobic, anaerobic fermentations, you have naturals, pups and drieds. You have a lot of different ways of processing coffee and different species as well. So that is what we love, and this is our starting point for our work. We do a lot of the defects. Defects are actually pictures of what happens with this coffee. It's actually very interesting to see the origin of the defect, what caused that defect. It's a very interesting conversation with the planters because every defect is a loss that you make. So if you want to have more profits and to be your coffee more profitable, the lesser amount of defects you have, the better profits you will. So why not to learn and try to minimize them by studying the nature of the cause of the defects. So UV light is one way but we have other methods to see and to categorize them. So our students go through a very interesting module, which is green coffee assessment, where they will need to segregate, discard, sort out all the defects by categories, primary defects, secondary defects, and give an explanation why this coffee got defected and what will be the corrective actions that the planter should do in terms to avoid it. If his problem is come from the planter or from the curer, miller, or from the storage or from the logistics, so many other aspects. Okay, come to roasting coffee. So roasting coffee, of course, is an art that we also discovering new ways to roast. Roasting 50 years ago was simply put green coffee in a drum, make it dark, and take it out. That's it. That was how roasting was understood. Today, roasting is understood in a very different way. We're playing with time, we're playing with temperatures, we're playing with rate of rises. I'm going to explain you what is the 4 to 5 critical points. Every coffee opens up at different profiles. Some coffees, they do prefer to be roasted a bit more. Other coffees, they prefer to be roasted a bit less. So that is what we do. We try to understand which is the optimal roasting profile for each coffee. One, we have found it. Then we have a very good software that help us to monitor the roasts. Although it's all manual, it's not automatic. But we know the roadmap, we know exactly what is the profile of this coffee, and the roaster should match that profile, which later on will check the color and will check the densities and all that. There are 5 critical points in roasting. I know that some of you are just planters, but I want to that you get out of this conference at least knowing a bit more about what roasting is about. So that's why I wanted to explain that the first part is very important, is the drying part. It is just to remove the moisture content of coffee, that's around 10 to 12. Then we start having the Maillard reactions, which is very important reactions in food. We have Maillard reactions when we do barbecue. We have Maillard reactions when you bake a cake. So we have Maillard reactions when we roast coffee. And that is an extremely important process when the carbohydrates contained in the coffee are turned into sugars. Also, the color of the coffee changes from green to yellow, and to yellow to brown, where the coffee cracks once or twice, and after crack, we call development time ratios. That's a very important number we should know among roasters or clients, how much time we're investing in the roasting process in developing this coffee. Cooling is very important in roasting. We need to cool as fast as possible. If you don't do that, the roasting process continues in your cooling tray, and that will give you notes that are not desirable. Neither you can be very consistent with it. And the last one is degassing. Degassing is very important. As you know, coffee releases CO2. There's a lot of CO2 there, and it's not good to have a lot of CO2 in your coffee. So we have a degas process, and we have also a one-way valve that we put in coffee pouches to make sure the CO2 excess is released out, but oxygen is not coming in, preserving the coffee freshness. We do a lot of years of roasting. We like to roast with a fresh look. We don't want to encapsulate ourselves into one way of roasting. I think roasting is a very dynamic science. We like to roast always with a learner's eye. Since, okay, let's experiment, let's change this, let's assume that, don't assume anything, try and fail and gain and repeat, and all along the line. That's, I think, is our approach. Otherwise, this becomes absolutely boring. So we want to keep that roasting very creative, very exciting process. So we allow ourselves, I think, because we can afford to have that playground in our company to play and see how coffees taste differently by roasting them very differently. We have a lot of customers' requests. As you know, coffee taste is subject to culture. Culture is shaping the way we like or dislike products. And as you know, taste is a very subjective matter. So what is best for you It is not for me. So how we're going to match the taste of your customers? If you are located in North India and South India, the customer's profile will differ. So that is actually very interesting process of co-creation as well with our B2B customers. If they're in the north, so we will go there, we'll check the coffees that the people drink up there, and we'll see what our preferences, and then we'll try not to match exactly what they like, but we need to be aware that the coffee should be approachable. It should be something that they can relate to. From that point onwards, then we can start surprising them with new coffees. But we cannot change the culture of taste in one day. It needs to be progressive. So what we do is we roast different styles for different customers, for different locations. So yes, we have seen the picture. Again, we are not advocating that light roast is the best or dark roast is the best. Each roast has its own flavor profile. Each roast brews differently. Each brew is meant for something different. But that's, again, the diversity of coffee, particularly specialty coffee. So we have from very dark roast Vienna. I'm not saying burnt coffee. From burnt to dark roast is there's a big difference because to roast a coffee dark, well, it's not easy because you don't want to burn it. At the same time, light roasted coffees are coffees that at the beginning were not well accepted in here because of very sour taste. But now I think the palate of the Indian connoisseurs and the specialty coffee movement is changing. So that is giving us the opportunity to roast. We have 5 to 6 different roasting profiles that we offer to our clients, and they pick the best. Sometimes they prefer a dark roast in the morning breakfast coffee with some milk. Some people like a light roasted coffee in a pour over more in the afternoon, and they like a meat roasted coffee for the mocha pots. So slowly, people pick their roast profiles and their coffee beans, and they are happy about it. So what we do is a very strict data collection. Whatever we do, the coffee enters our roastery. That moment, it's entered into our software. We know exactly the amount of green coffee inventory. We know exactly how the coffee is being roasted, under which profile. We have a batch number, a date of roast, and we keep samples of all. We do first cupping, what we call production cupping. After the production is done, the results of the cupping has been introduced in the software. This coffee is ready for dispatch. So if something happened along the line, some customer complain about the taste, flavor of the coffee, we can very accurately go back and see if something went wrong in our production, and if not, then do a troubleshooting with the customer. Say, okay, this coffee, according to us, is done well, but maybe that bitterness may come from some other sources. Let's revise the coffee espresso machine. How was the last time you washed your portafilters, or last time that you cleaned your water filters, and whatever, grind size, pressure. All this is very important for a maximum result. So we keep very close touch with the data and then make sure we can reproduce excellence every time. So details. If you don't have curiosity, if you are not obsessed with details, definitely a specialty coffee is not for you, because that is where the last mile counts the most. Any single defect needs to be removed and understood and talk about it, because every defect is going to bring your coffee down. And I think that's not fair, that 80% of your coffee is tasting delicious, but another 20% is not done well. That is bringing you the quality of your cup down. I think that is not something that we like to do. So details from seed to cup, yes, we are obsessed with that, and I think that obsession is healthy because it gives us good results. So yes, details are extremely important in this industry. Okay. Here you see a picture of a grinder, and I think also grinder has been a little bit on the oversight. Again, coffee beans is a semi-finished product, so you need to grind it to brew it. And grinding, and so far, has been also understood. Yeah, you need to crush the beans if you want to brew, but we don't actually crush anything. We are just shaving them into small particles. It's very much like this sushi chef we do the same with coffee. When you grind coffee, you need to use extremely sharp burrs, very, very high precision burrs, so to allow that the particles you're grinding are as homogeneous as possible. If you have a lot of different in size in a grind, when you grind your coffee is not going to taste good because the small, fine particles, they will brew very fast, and the bigger particles will brew at a slower pace. So you get a lot of confusion in the cup. So we take one day in our courses to look at the grinding as a science as well, how a good grinder can change so much the taste of your coffee. So again, this is something that at home it's not easy to do because people usually don't have grinders at home. But I think the specialty coffee movement is calling for the ultimate. So if you really want to enjoy at home the excellence of one of these coffees, the best thing you could do is to grind it yourself to the right size. And I think using a very good quality grinder will help you to even produce a better cup. So grinding is extremely important to deliver a good product. So here is the grinding that we use. This is the most advanced hand grinder in the world. It has a lot of positions. It's up to the micron. So our clients, our students, they kind of blown away by the impact that grinding can have in your coffee. So I think it's very important that today you retain that information, that grinding is really very important if you want to achieve excellence in coffee. So we went through the training of Q grading, thanks to Red Sirocco in Bangalore to organize Q grading programs. Before, those were not available in India, so you need to go another country to do so. So a few years back, they launched the Q grading program, so I attended the Arabica, I attended also the Canephora, and I think that gave me a very good insight on how to evaluate a cup of coffee very objectively, and following always the same protocol that I could share with other Q graders around the world to have a common language, and also is giving us a very consistent way to look at the coffee without judging the coffee firsthand. Usually we don't want to know the origin, or we don't want to know the planter behind the coffee. We want the coffee to talk to us, to open to us, and after that we'll score it and describe it, and then we understand from where it comes from, and then we can decide what to do with it. So, as you know, specialty coffee, there are many definitions of a specialty coffee. Some of them, they said, is very good tasting coffee, zero defect coffee. So basically, if you know the scale from 0 to 100, so above 80, or 80 and above, you can technically classify this coffee as a specialty, but from 80 to 100, we got 20 points to go, and that is the difficulty that we all encounter. The more you want your coffee to score, the more work you need to do, the more meticulous the process will be, and maybe the amount that you end up is lesser, but definitely that is going to bring the very best of your coffee to the cup. So we differentiate 80 coffees, 85 coffees, then we go into 90 coffees, 90 plus coffees, up to 95. Coffees that they cross the 90 score are very rare, they're extremely expensive, but when you try one of these 90 plus coffees, then you understand why. It's like, it's really powerful. The aroma, the fragrance, everything stays with you. It's a coffee that stays with you for a long time. And I know that to achieve that, you need to have a great amount of knowledge and some really deep passion to be able to go until the last mile. In India, I think there are maybe few. I didn't cross yet to a 90 plus coffee in this country. Maybe 88, yes. Up to 89, I would say. But 90 still is a kind of a barrier that we need to cross, and I think we are going to cross it soon because the mindset of the planters now is in the right place. So I think the next years we'll see 90 plus coffees to India and for the rest of the world. So when we analyze the coffee, we always take the fragrance first, without even adding any water. It's the first touch that we have with the coffee. In there, we can really experience the intensity of the coffee. And if the coffee is going to be complex or is going to be semi-complex, so it's a coffee that has, very normal attributes. So in there, we already understand a little bit how the coffee is going to be. Then we add the water and we assess the aroma. It's about the olfactory senses. After, we are going to assess the flavor when we try the coffee. The flavor is the combination of aroma and taste. And then after the aroma, we look at the flavors and then acidities, aftertaste, mouthfeel, body, sweetness, uniformity, balance, and overall. And that it's scored at every single attribute until you have the final score with a good description of the coffee. When you do that, then you understand what the coffee stands out, where the coffee can be marketed, how you're going to roast it, how you're going to market. And so that is extremely important exercise that we love to do. It's one of the best things we enjoy is by cupping coffees. So this is one of the parts. As I said, when you roast coffee, you need to brew it, and brewing becomes also complicated. With tea, somehow we manage, put the tea, 3 minutes, done. With wine, you open the bottle, it's done. Whiskey, you open the bottle, it's done. But in coffee, you open your packet with coffee beans, and it's not done. You need to do the job. You need to grind it, you need to brew it, and that is when it comes the fun of it, or maybe it's a nightmare. But that is what we love to do. So in our training courses, what we do is we explain the ratio between coffee, water, and coffee. We introduce a ratio concept into brewing. Like what is ratio? So how much coffee you are going to use for how much water you're going to use. So for instance, espresso coffee, which is the most intense and short, is 1 to 2. So it's 1 part of coffee for 2 parts of water. And then you move on into other different brewing methods, like mocha pots, South Indian filter coffee, Chemex, filters, and so on. So we explain the concept of ratio, then temperature and time. How much time you're going to invest in brewing and how much temperature you would like the water to be. The combination of the two are also going to impact greatly the quality of your coffee. So teaching that becomes very important. And as I said earlier, the grind size is also paramount to achieve a very good quality cup. So these aspects are discussed, talk, we do a lot of exercises, theory and practice, and people actually enjoy so much brewing coffees now. Even I must tell you that people are setting up the small cafe corners in their homes. They are just next to the bar, they just put a little brewing station, and it's a very kind of, ceremonial way of start the day. Pick up your beans, grind the beans by hand, heat up your water, choose your brewing method, you have your favorite cup. It's a philosophy of life as well. I think that is just the opposite that what we call the instant coffee, where people have no time for that. That's fine. But the people who like to really have the time to enjoy a cup of coffee, then it becomes the real thing, right? So that is what we love to promote, and we like our customers to engage. Our coffee is, qualitatively speaking, very aspirational, but also affordable. Of course, most of the customers cannot afford to buy an espresso machine and own a cafe, but they have the chance to come and visit us. They have the chance to sit with us, to enjoy our ambience, atmosphere, our coffees. And I think it's an affordable luxury. I don't think if you're really truly a coffee lover, paying 400 rupees for a cup of coffee is not going to hurt that much. It's a very emotional drink. When we do a specialty coffee, it brings a very special emotion in our customers and as well as us. There is a connection that is made as the customers more and more, they want to know more about the product they consume. Coffee being only one product, and water is very easy to trace back. Traceability is very easy. So when a customer, like in the person in the middle, I just gave her that day one coffee. I said, you need to try this coffee. I think this coffee is made for you. And we captured that picture. Said, yeah, you got it right. No, that is exactly the cup of coffee I would like to enjoy every day. So said we had a conversation over from where this coffee comes from and how this coffee is being made. So I think I'm very much on time. This is my last slide. Thank you for that. So I hope I didn't bother you much and bore you so much. If there is any questions or you want to visit our stall, we have a small stall there with some coffee. We have a small French press and we have a kettle. So please, you are most welcome to come over and enjoy a cup of coffee. Thank you so much.